Good guy, that Mike Garafolo.
He sure is. It's time for our weekly chat with Mike Garafolo from the NFL Network. Mike, this Tom Brady thing really has me confused. We remember when he initially signed the 10-year, $375 million deal with Fox to be a broadcaster and then became a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. There were a lot of concerns about conflict of interest. Well, Brady shows up in the coach's booth in the Monday Nighter with a headset on. Can you explain the league's latest stance on this dual role for Tom Brady?
Yes, Jay, I can. And just to be clear, the league stance has been for many months now, quite some time. Now, when it first started, they said, well, Brady can't do the production meetings. Then they said, well, he can do them now, but he can do them virtually because he's a minority owner. And being part of production meetings in person, in facilities, might glean some info that other minority owners or majority owners would not have access to. So the NFL, and let's be clear, Tom Brady as an announcer, very good thing for the NFL. Tom Brady as a minority owner, very good thing for the NFL. To have a legendary player still involved in the game in multiple roles. So they're sort of looking the other way in a way that they wouldn't have in the past to facilitate this from both ends. Now, everybody knew this. This was not a secret. But I think for some coaches, for some personnel guys, for some other owners around the league, to actually see him in that booth with that headset on sort of engendered some feelings of him being a double agent a little bit. Now, this is not going to change anything. And nothing changed. I mean, I saw some people, the league announced the chat. The league didn't announce anything. They were just asked by media folks like our Tom Pelissero at NFL Network if there was any reaction to what Peter Schrager, our buddy Peter Schrager, reported there in the pregame, that Tom Brady has been having conversations with Chip Kelly, which he's allowed to. And frankly, as a minority owner of the team, he should be doing. I mean, this is not a guy that made his money in the .com world who walks in and says, I'm a minority owner. Hey, I'm going to tell you who we should draft up on that board right there. Like, no, this is Tom Brady. You should be using everything that he has at your disposal. So I think it's just comical when the Raiders are saying, well, he's not really involved. Of course he's involved, and he's going to continue to be involved. But I would say to other teams, just be careful what you tell him, because you know, and you've seen it now with your own eyes, how involved he is.
Let's talk about some of the injuries to big-name quarterbacks in week number 2. We begin with Jayden Daniels, young star with the Washington Commanders, suffered that knee sprain on Thursday against the Packers. What's his status for next week's game against Tom Brady's Las Vegas Raiders?
I would expect that Jayden Daniels is not going to be a full participant, if a participant at all, during practice when the Commanders return on Wednesday, Jay, and no one has really ruled him out. When I talk to people with knowledge of the situation here, nobody's saying, well, he's out, he's not playing. But I would say they're skewing toward him potentially sitting this week, because you've got a young, dynamic player down there in Washington, and it's a new regime in every sense of the word. But down there in Washington, we saw what happened with RG3 years ago when he played injured, and all of a sudden his career went sideways. You don't want that with Jayden Daniels, obviously. And you want him, because movement is a part of his game, to be able to move. So I am getting the sense that it is leaning more towards a Marcus Mariota revenge game, which we've talked about all week. When you've played for so many teams, you have the potential to have revenge games, with the Raiders being one of them for Marcus Mariota. So I would not be surprised. We got Marcus, we're going to talk about him in a second, but Carson Wentz. We got Marcus Mariota, Carson Wentz, two highly drafted quarterbacks years ago, all of a sudden potentially starting games this upcoming week.
I think people are just excited that they're still in the league. The Bengals officially placed Joe Burrow in injured reserve following that turf toe injury. That will require surgery. Mike, what does this mean long term for Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals going forward?
Well, they like the quarterbacks that they have in-house. And you saw they added a couple of quarterbacks to the roster here. Not big names. Everybody thought, well, they're going to go out and Kirk Cousins and so. No, they haven't made those moves. And really the hope is that Joe Burrow will be able to come back for the playoff run here for the Cincinnati Bengals, who feel like they are going to be able to survive in the meantime. Maybe they lean a little bit more on their running game. You wish the defense was better. This is not the strength of the team that it had been in previous years under defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. So I think there's an outside shot that the Bengals are able to stay afloat here and to make sure that Joe Burrow can come back at some point in the postseason and ride to the rescue. I'm sort of curious to see if that's doable. When you talk about 3 months, you're talking about late in the season, not even into the playoffs, where he could come back potentially and play the last couple of weeks of the season. We shall see.
And then for Minnesota, they lose their young quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. He suffers a sprained ankle, so he'll be out for some time. But now we find out they'll be without running back Aaron Jones for at least 4 weeks. What's the latest from the Vikings, Mike?
Which would thrust Jordan Mason, who they acquired this offseason, into a starting role there in Minnesota. And they like what they have seen from him early on. So, yeah, I mentioned him. Carson Wentz now gets thrust into a starting role for the Minnesota Vikings this upcoming weekend, probably for a couple of weeks, because you've got a couple of international games for them back-to-back, so that could complicate things as well with the travel over there. I would say, and there is a real injury. Everybody in Minnesota has made that clear to me. There is an injury here, but I don't think it's a bad thing that J.J. McCarthy could take a step back. The way that he played the other night, this is a guy who didn't have his rookie year, was thrust into this starting role really with no competition. Now this is what's coming back to bite Minnesota a little bit. They didn't want to have a guy, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was interested in going there. They didn't want to have a guy that was going to threaten J.J. McCarthy at all. They wanted it to be a clear runway to him to be a starting quarterback. Well, now you're dealing with the fact that you don't have a proven starter that you can rely upon. You've got Carson Wentz, who was at one point, I mean, the guy was an MVP candidate, but he hasn't started a game outside of Week 18 the last couple of years, and frankly, those games were not with the starters. He played well for the Rams. He did not play so well for the Chiefs, but the Chiefs were resting everybody. So this is the first time we're going to see Carson Wentz since he was with the Commanders in 2022 with a full gamut of weapons at his disposal and a really good offense. I'm curious to see that part. But for J.J. McCarthy, I think you saw it in his eyes late in the game, the way he was talking to Kevin O'Connell. Needs to take a step back, needs to take a breath, get fully healthy, get back in there, and hopefully perform a lot better.
The NFL supports Tom Brady's dual role with Fox and the Raiders. We support Mike Garafolo's dual role as our NFL analyst and a renovator of homes all over the northeastern part of the United States. Mike, you're the best at both.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys matching dollar for dollar Brady's deal with Fox for me. Thank you very much.